Under a bruised twilight sky along a forgotten stretch of highway, a solitary gas station pulsed with the hum of fluorescent lights. Daniel Harris, his sleek ebony sedan a silent testament to his quiet defiance, rolled to a stop at one of its pumps. Every night, the long, lonesome road had offered him solace and time to untangle his thoughts, but tonight, the air shimmered with a promise of upheaval. Without warning, a police cruiser glided into the lot, its red and blue beams dancing harshly against the dark. The vehicle's arrival was a sudden rupture in the calm, a herald of impending discord. Out stepped an officer whose every movement dripped with a self-assured authority and barely concealed disdain. With his hand hovering near his baton like a coiled serpent ready to strike, he barked, "Explain yourself, what brings you here at this hour?" His tone was as brittle as ice, each word slicing through the stillness. Daniel, ever composed from his countless nocturnal journeys, leaned casually against the car's roof, his voice a soft counterpoint to the tension. "Just refueling," he replied, his calm carrying an undercurrent of quiet dignity. But the officer's gaze, hard and scrutinizing, betrayed an unspoken verdict. His eyes narrowed as they swept over Daniel's tailored suit and polished shoes, a stark contrast to the gritty backdrop of the pump, and he advanced with deliberate menace, every twitch of his fingers and furtive glance toward the empty lot betraying his hunger for control. The charged air thickened, the steady hum of the fuel pump mingled with the heartbeat of a man who had weathered many similar storms. "Your behavior is suspicious," the officer accused, his voice a cocktail of entitlement and simmering hostility. In a measured tone, Daniel calmly inquired, "Am I being detained?" That question hung in the charged space between them, a quiet challenge that intensified the standoff. Nearby, unseen witnesses, the man meticulously adjusting his side mirror, a woman momentarily pausing with her soda, and even the uneasy attendant behind the counter, watched with bated breath, each moment stretching into eternity. As the officer's accusations mounted like a rising tide, speaking of loitering, hidden contraband, and furtive intentions, the mechanical rhythm of the pump reached its crescendo, its final click a cruel punctuation in their standoff. With every word, the officer sought a crack in Daniel's calm facade, questioning not only his presence but insinuating secrets hidden in the trunk of his car. "Drugs? What are you hiding?" he demanded, his voice growing sharper, each syllable designed to provoke an error, a slip of dignity that would justify his overreach. Before the tension could culminate in chaos, an unexpected roar shattered the standoff. Piercing beams of headlights cascaded over the lot, announcing the arrival of 3 formidable SUVs. Their presence was almost otherworldly, sleek, dark, and exuding an unmistakable authority. As these vehicles glided to a measured stop, the dynamics shifted in a heartbeat. The officer's confident stride faltered, and his eyes betrayed the first tremor of uncertainty as he glanced toward the looming silhouettes of his unexpected visitors. From the depths of those vehicles emerged a cadre of impeccably dressed agents. Their tailored suits and measured, deliberate movements were as precise as a finely tuned orchestra. One man in particular, a tall figure with salt and pepper hair and a gaze that cut through pretense like a scalpel, stepped forward. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice a cool ripple that momentarily drowned out the tension. His question was not for the officer but for Daniel, affirming that sometimes, true authority does not bark orders but offers reassurance. In that instant, the power balance irrevocably tipped. With a calm resolve that belied the storm behind him, the agent addressed the trembling officer, "You're the one in uniform here. On what grounds are you detaining Mr. Harris?" The question, delivered in a tone of measured authority, seemed to peel away the layers of false bravado the cop had worn so proudly. Daniel's steady gaze met the officer's for a moment, a silent dialogue of dignity against aggression, while the agents formed a quiet, impenetrable barrier around him. A palpable shift spread through the lot. The officer's confident stance began to crumble, his baton, once a symbol of his assumed power, now hung limply at his side. The agents, their eyes scanning the scene with the precision of seasoned guardians, continued. One of them, his voice carrying the weight of unyielding responsibility, declared, "Mr. Harris holds a position of considerable public trust." The revelation struck like a lightning bolt, illuminating the injustice of the officer's baseless actions. In that charged silence, every witness, the cautious bystander with a side mirror, the soda-clutching woman peering from the station's edge, and even the nervous attendant, became a silent juror in the trial of misplaced authority. For a long, heavy moment, the gas station held its breath. The officer, now exposed by the unmistakable force of true accountability, could only watch as his veneer of power dissolved. His words, once sharp and unyielding, faltered into incoherent murmurs as the agents, each movement as smooth as a practiced dance, asserted their oversight. "Your entire encounter is being recorded," one agent noted flatly, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Dash cams, store cameras, every eye is on you." The reality of accountability, once a distant concept, now loomed large and inescapable. With the inevitability of justice settling like a heavy cloak over the scene, Daniel stepped away from the tense tableau. There were no flashing sirens, no shouts of further command, only the quiet, deliberate act of a man reclaiming his dignity. He opened the door of his car, gave a brief, resolute nod to the agents, and slipped into the vehicle. As his car merged seamlessly back into the nocturnal expanse, a profound stillness enveloped the gas station. The gathered onlookers exhaled collectively, their eyes lingering on the spot where authority had been unmasked. Left in the wake of this unexpected reversal, the officer stood immobilized, a figure of crumbling power amid a backdrop of silent witnesses. His reflection, caught in the darkened window of his cruiser, seemed to mock him, a stark reminder of the night's harsh truth. In that mirror, he saw not the commander he had imagined himself to be, but a man ensnared by his own misplaced pride and the unyielding scrutiny of accountability. As the SUVs eventually melted into the night, leaving behind a trail of quiet resolve, the silence at the gas station deepened into something almost sacred. The woman by the window, the man with the cautious mirror, even the attendant behind the counter, all bore witness to a moment that transcended the ordinary. A moment when authority was not enforced by brute strength or empty threats, but by the unwavering insistence that every human being deserves to be treated with dignity. In the lingering hush, a question hovered like the last note of a somber ballad: who will stand up when power is abused? Who will watch, and when will justice finally pierce the silence that too often becomes complicity? For in a world where a man's identity should never be measured by the shadow of prejudice, true change demands more than reflection, it requires action. If you believe that fairness must prevail over entitlement, then let this night serve as a call to arms. Stand vigilant, speak out, and remember that real power lies in accountability. Because when the next moment of injustice unfolds, it is our collective voice, and our unyielding commitment to the truth, that will tip the scales toward genuine justice. And as the echoes of that fateful encounter fade into the cool night air, one truth remains: the night's reckoning is not just a memory, it is a mandate for all who dare to challenge the tyranny of unchecked power.